The Maryland Department of Health, Developmental Disabilities Administration, Self-Directed Services Training Series, Module 8, the Self-Directed Services Budget Sheet and Modification. Updated October 2025. This training module will provide you with an overview of the Self-Directed Services Budget Sheet and Modification. This training is a summary with important information on this topic. More information and requirements are found in the Medicaid Waiver Program application, laws, regulations, guidance, and policies. The most updated information regarding self-directed services is published in the Self-Directed Services Policy and Manual that can be found on the DDA's website. Participants self-directing their services are allocated a specific budget of Medicaid waiver funding to use to hire employees, vendors, DDA providers, and to purchase services. The self-directed services budget allocation means the DDA's authorization for funding for participants to manage their Medicaid waiver program services, including provider and vendor rates and employee wages. The cost of services and employee wages must be within the DDA's established reasonable and customary standards. The self-directed services budget allocation is based on the approved person-centered plan total, plan cost noted within LTSS Maryland. LTSS Maryland is the DDA's electronic data management system, developed and supported by the department. For DDA-operated programs, it is used to create, review, and maintain records about eligibility status for services and the participant's person-centered plan, services, and funding authorized by the DDA. The participant, with the support of their team, will develop the self-directed services budget sheet based on the services and units approved in the authorized person-centered plan and budget allocation. Participants have employer authority over some Medicaid waiver services. This means that the participant can be the employer of the person that is providing those services. As the employer, the participant chooses how much the employee is paid, what benefits they receive, and what their expectations are for the employee. The participant hires, terminates, and supervises under employer authority. Under employer authority, the participant is required to follow all employment laws and is also required to pay employees within the DDA's established reasonable and customary standards. Participants have budget authority over all Medicaid waiver services that can be self-directed. This means that the participant chooses how much to pay for the service within reasonable and customary standards. For more information about the self-directed services Medicaid waiver services, please refer to Training Module 4. Participants can hire DDA providers for certain services. DDA providers must meet service qualifications. Participants are responsible for paying an agreed rate. These costs for provider services are paid from the participant's budget. Agreed rates must be within the DDA's established reasonable and customary standards. Participants can negotiate lower rates with providers. Providers are independent professionals or businesses. Providers are responsible for all of their employer-related responsibilities and costs. Participants do not have to allocate separate funding to pay for provider staff taxes or other related business expenses. Providers are paid a flat fee or rate. It is important to note that some self-directed Medicaid waiver services can only be provided by a DDA provider. Participants can increase the pay they pay providers within the DDA's reasonable and customary standards. Participants are not required to increase provider rates. Rate increases can be based on performance, and rate increases can be offered at any time during the year. Participants self-directing their Medicaid waiver services can hire vendors for certain services. Vendors must meet service qualifications. Participants establish payment rates for vendors. Vendor rates must be within the DDA's established reasonable and customary standards for vendors. Participants are responsible for paying the agreed vendor rate. The costs come out of the participant's budget. Participants can negotiate lower rates with vendors. Vendors are individual professionals or businesses. Vendors are responsible for their own taxes and business-related expenses. Participants do not have to allocate separate funding to pay for vendor staff taxes or other related business expenses. Vendors are paid a flat fee or rate. Participants can increase the rate they pay vendors within the DDA's established reasonable and customary standards for the Medicaid waiver service that the vendor provides. Participants are not required to increase vendor rates. Rate increases can be based on performance, and rate increases can be offered at any time during the year. Participants self-directing their Medicaid waiver services can hire staff or employees for certain services. Participants self-directing their services can establish their own staff wages. This is a duty under the self-direction employer authority. Staff wages must be within the DDA's established reasonable and customary standards for employees. Participants are responsible for employer-related costs. These costs come out of the participant's budget. Participants must ensure their budget can support all employer-related costs, including the taxes of the employer. Participants can hire staff at the state's or, if higher, their county's established minimum wage. Participants should hire enough staff to meet their needs. Participants should minimize the need for staff to work overtime. Overtime payment is often required by law when staff work more than 40 hours in a week. Overtime payments are an additional cost to the budget. Before approving overtime, participants must ensure that they have funding available in their budget allocation. Participants can offer their staff pay increases. Participants are not required to offer their staff pay increases. Pay increases can be based on staff performance, and they can be offered at any time during the year. Participants can submit a request to exceed the established staff wage range. The request is submitted using the Self-Directed Services Staff Wage Exception Form. This form is available on the DDA's website. Personal supports, enhanced, and community development services 2-to-1 and 1-to-1 staff supports are based on an assessed need in the person-centered plan. Wages for 2-to-1 supports account for 2 employees working at the same time. The total wages for 1 employee may not be higher than the maximum. For all employee taxes, the standard tax fee of 14% must be budgeted for all employees. This rate is for employer taxes and other fringe expenses. The rate of 14% is non-negotiable. Budgets must include this 14%. Benefits may be budgeted each year based on the participant's benefits policies. Examples include paid time off, health insurance premium reimbursement, mileage reimbursement, holiday pay for hours worked during a holiday, training, and training hours. For additional information regarding developing an employee handbook and policies, please see the Hiring and Managing Employees training module. The Coordinator of Community Services facilitates the completion of the Self-Directed Services budget sheet. The support broker should never complete the Self-Directed Services budget sheet for the participant. The budget sheet is meant to be completed by the participant with the Coordinator of Community Services. It is best practice that the budget sheet is completed in a meeting with every team member that the participant wants to be there, with all team members offering their feedback. Support brokers may offer input regarding certain aspects of the budget sheet based on their other conversations with the participant. In the next slides, we'll review those particular areas where support brokers and other team members may be useful. This slide includes a screenshot of the DDA Self-Directed Services budget sheet, which is located on the DDA Self-Directed Services webpage. The Self-Directed Services budget sheet is a document used for participants to indicate how they are using their Self-Directed Services budget allocation for Medicaid waiver services. It includes the participant's person-centered plan authorized services, the participant's selected financial management and counseling services provider, proposed employee wages and provider and vendor rates, and employee-related expenses such as taxes, benefits, and training when the participant hires their own employees. The budget sheet notes general information as the participant's name, person-centered plan status, effective date, annual plan date, number of months left in the plan, number of weeks left in the plan, and the Medicaid waiver program name. The Self-Directed Services budget sheet also includes text boxes to enter the DDA Self-Directed Services budget allocation. As applicable, a box will turn red if you exceed the budget allocation. Unallocated funding may be used or accessed later using a budget modification form, following DDA guidance. Yellow cells may be filled in. White cells are automatically calculated and cannot be manually filled in. Participants, with the support of their coordinators of community services, enter hours, rates, number of months or weeks, etc. into the yellow cells. Keyboard arrows can be used to move between cells. The Self-Directed Services budget sheet also includes a text box for participants to share any general notes that they may have that might be helpful for their team or their financial management and counseling services provider. It is important to check the DDA website to ensure the current version of the budget is being used. The DDA has a walkthrough video for participants to use when developing Self-Directed Services budget sheets. It can be great practice for the team to watch this video before completing the budget sheet each year. This walkthrough was a part of a webinar that took place on October 1st, 2025. Participants, with the support of their team, may make changes to the Self-Directed Services budget sheet during the annual plan year. Changes to the Self-Directed Services budget sheet are called budget modifications. Budget modifications can only be made if the budget remains within the total approved budget amount and if the modification is allowed by policy and guidance. Details about Self-Directed Services budget modifications can be found in the Self-Directed Services manual. This slide shows some examples of when a budget modification would be completed. Budget modifications can serve to increase or decrease staff wages, vendor rates, or provider rates within the reasonable and customary standards. Add, delete, increase, or decrease employer-related expenses associated with health benefits. Adjustment to funding associated with taxes. Adjustment to funding associated with taxes. Teams must ensure enough funds remain in each wage line for services through the end of the plan year. The change of a use from staff to a vendor or provider for the same type and unit of services. The change of use of a vendor or provider to hiring a staff person for the same type of service or units. Increase respite staff funding up to the waiver program service limit. Moving funding associated with ongoing job supports, community development services, support broker services, personal supports, and day habilitation up to the approved number of hours per week. Or a change in individual and family directed goods and services within applicable limits. The DDA has a walkthrough video for participants to use when creating a budget modification. It can be great practice for a team to watch this video before creating a budget modification when needed. This walkthrough was a part of a webinar that took place on October 1st, 2025. This slide contains resources related to this topic. In summary, the Self-Directed Services budget sheet is created based on the services and units approved in the person-centered plan. Budget sheets are facilitated by the coordinator of community services. Providers, vendors, and employees must be paid within reasonable and customary wage and rate standards. Employer taxes and other employee costs must be budgeted at 14%. Budget modifications can be completed if there is funding available to move and that there is an authorized listed action to complete. This ends Module 8.